morning, everyone. Hey, I'm Andre Lennon, NCEDA board member and the chair of our professional development committee. In my day job, I'm a principal with Civil and Environmental Consultants in Charlotte. I'm excited to be your MC today for NCEDA's International Business Growth webinar. We're happy to have you with us. Before starting the program, I'd like to acknowledge NCEDA's annual sponsors, whose logos you'll see on the screen now. These companies and organizations support every component of NCEDA's expansive mission and our growing body of programs. We thank all those sponsors for their generous support. Webinars that benefit our membership like this one result from their support. Today, we are diving into the world of international trade and how it benefits business here in North Carolina. We're teaming up with the EDPNC, a valued partner of NCEDA, to give you the tools and knowledge to take your business global. This webinar will cover why exporting is key to your business growth and how you can leverage North Carolina's resources to get there. We'll share real-world stories from local companies that have succeeded in international markets, with a look at how exporting has made them stronger and more innovative. Now let's introduce our moderator, Melissa McGurk. Melissa is the International Trade Manager at the EDPNC and the brains behind this webinar. With a wealth of experience in international business on both the public and private side, she's honed her expertise in trade, strategic partnerships, and economic development. We're happy to have her here to share more about how the EDPNC can be a resource for you and to introduce our moderator and the group of panelists. So let's get started. Thank you for making this webinar happen, Melissa.
Thank you so much, Andre, and thank you so much, Liz, for the hard work in putting this together. I appreciate it. So let me tell you the inspiration for this and the goal moving forward. Liz, if you can back up and show the slide with the partner logos. I want everyone to see this. There's 5. You're looking at 5 different partners, and I am going to guess there's a chance that some economic development professionals may not have realized what a robust international business support ecosystem we have. I know we have relationships with many of you. You might have relationships with a couple of these resources, but the goal today is to ensure that you know that both you and your local businesses have an entire team of supporting organizations. So we don't have enough time to dig in really deep on any one. So the goal is going to be to have you take away a general sense of what each organization can support, as well as some stories directly from a company to help kind of solidify that for you. And hopefully in the future, we'll be able to offer a deeper dive into each one of these organizations. So that's the general goal. I'm now going to do a quick introduction to each of our very knowledgeable panelists, and then we'll circle back and talk about their organizations. So first we have Mike Hubbard, who is my boss here at EDPNC. He directs the international trade team. So Mike, if you can come on the line and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thanks for having me, everybody, and good morning. I'm Mike Hubbard, Director of International Trade at EDPNC. And just real briefly about me, I've been working in international trade for more than 25 years. I'm very young, but I've been working in international trade for all that time. I'm based here in Raleigh. Most of my career has been here in North Carolina, working with companies here in the state. Working both in trade associations, where I've got government experience as well, and then of course working with companies individually. As a quick background, my undergrad is Auburn University, and I went to grad school at Baylor, and focused as international trade my entire career. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, Mike. Next, Kathy Ma, the Assistant Director of Marketing at the NC Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. Kathy.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Melissa. This is Kathy Ma, Assistant Director of International Marketing at NCEDA. I joined NCEDA in 2006. I started as an international marketing specialist covering all sorts of ag commodities. And then I got promoted to the Assistant Director of International Marketing 2 years ago. I oversee the international marketing office at the department. I have a MBA degree from the University of Arkansas, Razorbacks, and I enjoy my work, and I work with ag business in North Carolina, foreign agriculture trade offices overseas, and Southern United States Trade Association. We have all sorts of resources to support NC Ag business for their export needs. Nice to meet you.
Thanks, Kathy. Next, Greg Sizemore with the U.S. Commercial Service. If you can introduce yourself.
Hi, thanks. Thanks for having me. Great to be here. I'm enjoying the chats about the college nicknames, but I'm Greg Sizemore. I'm originally from North Carolina, born and raised and educated. I've lived all over the world, but I keep coming back to North Carolina. Went to undergrad, UNC Charlotte, got my MBA from Wake Forest. I'm over the U.S. Commercial Service offices, part of US DOC for North Carolina. I don't know what else to say, but great to be here.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. Jonathan Sooks is a private sector representative. Just a key word about his participation today. He's going to be helping to lead the conversation during the panel, but not only is he a private sector individual that has utilized these organizations, he also has integrated himself as the support ecosystem, and he will be talking to you a little bit about the North Carolina District Export Council as well as his role nationally during the panel today. So Jonathan, say hello.
Good morning, everybody. Nice to meet you. Jonathan Such, right now, currently outside of Detroit, Michigan at a trade show. So wish I was down there with all of you enjoying the nice North Carolina weather, but alas, I'm here in Detroit. But president of Advanced Super Abrasives, and just happy to be here. Looking forward to sharing all my stories, working with all these great organizations, and just hopefully it leads to a bigger conversation.
Thanks, Jonathan. And Alex Viva, Director, International Business Development with the Small Business and Technology Development Center. I have a feeling everyone's familiar with SBTDC, but it might be a little bit of a secret that they have a handful of international business experts that can service companies. So Alex, introduce yourself.
There you go. You've already done it for me. But thank you. No, Alex Viva. I am the director of the international business team here at the Small Business and Technology Development Center. I've been with the organization for 13 years. Prior to that, in corporate positions focused on international business. I've got the experience of being in 63 different countries and 160 something airports. So enjoy the travel, enjoy international business. And I've received my MBA and economics degree from ES in Barcelona, Spain.
Great, thanks, Alex. And yes, Alex, and yes, that's one thing that differentiates the international business counselors with SBTDC is what Alex told you about his background. He was a practitioner doing what Jonathan does for decades, and they all bring real life experience as they work helping companies grow. So at this time, I'm going to ask all panelists to turn their cameras on because we are going to weave a conversation to help reveal their great resources. So I will kick things off with EDPNC because that's my home base. So Mike Hubbard, if you can please tell the group about our services and how we help companies with international growth.
Sure. Thanks, Melissa. So I think all of you know EDPNC already from your involvement with the NCEDA. But the international trade team, it was created specifically to help companies here in the state develop export markets and to grow outside of the US. So we have a small team here. Each of us are focused on specific industries. So there's that expertise, knowing the kind of the squirrely rules that may involve particular product types going into different countries. So that's what we do there. We work, as I said, with international trade development. And what we will do, we work with companies of all sizes, small to large. Most of the companies we work with tend to be small to mid-sized companies. Startups aren't really ready to export yet, and the really big companies don't always need our help. Sometimes they come to us with questions, but that smaller to mid-size is really where we're able to offer the most assistance. We will work with these companies to help them research a market and then develop an entry strategy into that market, and then provide assistance in that market as well. We, as Melissa said earlier, we go to trade shows all over the world. We'll get North Carolina booths and pavilions, invite companies to come with us. And then we typically fund all or most of the costs associated with those booths. We have grants available, different types of grants, but the biggest one is the STEP grant that can help small businesses, and it can offset some of their costs as well, because trade shows can be very expensive. But we get these countries into the markets themselves, and then the state of North Carolina has overseas contract offices as well that can help companies as they try to find who potential partners are. They can set up meetings for the companies once they're in those markets. If you're looking for a sales agent or a distributor in those other countries, they can do that work for you and for the companies. And so we don't charge for any of this. We work on contract with the state. So this is all available at no charge for what we do. But we're pretty much small business advisors and helping companies, or mostly small business advisors, helping companies get into markets overseas. One other thing people ask, what companies do we help? Do they have to be native companies? What if they're companies that have moved in? If they're in North Carolina, they're a North Carolina business, and we don't care where the parent company is located. We're interested in companies that are here, they're providing jobs here in this state, and they're growing our economy, and that's who we're here to serve.
Thank you, Mike. Jonathan.
Can I throw one other thing out real quick?
Of course.
One other thing we do that scares off a lot of companies with international trade is understanding compliance. And so we have webinars about once a month, free webinars about once a month on compliance topics. So we can help companies at least understand, to know what they need to know. And then, you can farm out a lot of that work, but they need to know what they need to know. So that's available to companies as well. So, sorry.
Great. Thanks, Mike. So Jonathan is going to weave in a little bit of kind of case study stories about how he's engaged with EDPNC, and give us other highlights of his international business growth.
Yeah, so thank you. So, Mike, thanks for scaring everybody with all the compliance stuff. We all need to know compliance stuff, but you always have to leave me with the scary stuff. But no, actually, EDPNC is a great organization. All these organizations are, and they all work well together. And so I'm going to share a little bit about each of them. So Mike mentioned the STEP grant program. When COVID hit, right? Businesses couldn't travel, world shut down, world was coming to an end. Everybody was, what do we do? Well, small businesses that are exporting, we're thinking the same thing. We're sitting there going, what do we do? What are we doing? How do we can't go to trade shows. We can't travel anymore. We can't do anything. And so Mike and his team, they always beat me up. They go, your website is not international ready. We have these grants available to help you make your websites ready. And so we made a new website for Mexico and Canada. So we have a, ASIwheels.mx website, a ASIwheels.ca website for Canada. And what that's done is it actually exploded our exports to those two markets. We did more in export sales in the year after we went live with our Mexico website than we did the previous 15 years combined. So that's what it can do for small businesses. I mean, we're only a 40-person plus company in rural Western North Carolina and Mars Hill outside of Asheville, but we sell to 28 countries around the world. Why are we able to do that? Because of all these organizations, because we're able to use all the resources that each organization has. Plus, these organizations communicate, and they really help exporters by taking them by the hand, from A to B all the way across to Z and across the finish line. So without, EDPNC's help with STEP grants, and we don't just use them for website globalization. We use them to go to trade shows. We use STEP grants for, translating our printed materials and stuff. So I have printed materials in probably 15 or 20 different languages because of EDPNC. It's more than that. It's consultations that they have. EDPNC, when I first started working with them, had an office in Shanghai. And that office was right across from Greg's compatriots from U.S. Department of Commerce. And so that shows you the kind of integral part that these agencies have, how, they have one office across from the other one. So I went from the North Carolina office to the U.S. Department of Commerce office. It was a neat thing for a North Carolina company traveling to China for the first time. You really felt well taken care of. And for your small and medium businesses, that's really what they're looking for. They're looking for all these agencies to take care of them. And so EDPNC is your state level, agency to really work with them on the international side. What does that mean? That means, finding trade shows, finding distributors, finding salespeople. And that's just one part of it. The other part is their consultation and, interconnecting all these other agents. So in reality, EDPNC is a great state starting block that will help you along the way. And like I said, what's hard for small business? Going to an international trade show for the first time. But if you go with EDPNC, you feel like you're in North Carolina because you have that support. You have Mike and his team there at the trade show with you, helping you not only with the trade show, but also compliance issues. Hey, is your trademark registered in the EU? Well, you may want to do that. Why you may want to do that? Well, because you may have a problem with your competitor that's 4 booths down that has a similar trademark. So, these are things that you want to think about as a small business, but from an EDA perspective, you have an untapped resource for businesses that are in your area. And what that allows them to do is to grow. And later on, I'll share what a small business like mine does and how it grows. But one quick key fact that I know Mike and Greg and everybody likes to share is that Advanced Superabrasives has the furthest export from any North Carolina company. And everybody's probably thinking EDA, well, the world's round, it's a globe. How far could you really export? Well, we actually have a product that we exported from Mars Hill, North Carolina to the planet Mars that's sitting on Mars doing work. And so we have the furthest exporter of North Carolina company. And I can tell you that each one of these organizations truly helped me. Mike helped me with the translation into Martian. Greg helped me find a distributor on Mars to sell my products. And
I just love it.
Yeah, Alex helped me create my business plan for it. So, just be warned that all these people are a great, great resource, and they are the best kept secret, and we don't want to keep it anymore.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. So I'm going to back things up. And what I mean by that is, so Alex's team at SBTDC are in just foundational guidance for companies that might be brand new to exporting, but they also continue to assist companies over many years. So since there is that foundational element, let's shift the conversation over to Alex. And if you can start out, Alex, by, telling us how you can help prepare companies that are first-time exporters, and then how you help companies that are seasoned exporters.
Well, thanks, Melissa. And I think Jonathan can tell our story as well as anyone. So thanks, Jonathan, for that. The SBTC, let me start from the beginning. As you can see from my video that we're celebrating 40 years. So this is our 40th year here in North Carolina helping small businesses. If you're in the economic development world, which all of you are, you most likely have heard and probably referred many companies to the SBTDC. So we thank you for that, and we work in partnership with a lot of groups throughout North Carolina. But just a little background: we are a organization or a program of the University of North Carolina system. And we are partially funded in a cooperative agreement with the Small Business Administration. We are here to help small businesses with our core services, which basically, in a nutshell, is in-depth, confidential, one-on-one business counseling really kind of focused on business foundations, right? So money, markets, management, right? Looking at strategies. We perform, also we have workshops and seminars and management education, lots of resources that we put together for small businesses, as well as advocacy on here. But in terms of international and how we help, both on the those who are thinking about going international, and in many cases, those companies, they may not know it, but they already are international. Maybe they're selling to a distributor who is then exporting their product somewhere else, or they're not paying attention to those things, but there could be markets for them. We help them explore that. Will their financial, through some financial analysis, let's make sure that we can support, that this company can support going exporting, looking at other markets. What's the timing of that? Right? Exporting is not something that's going to fix problems. Right? Exporting is an expansion to your business. It's a diversification of your markets, right? And diversification, especially if you're a seasonal company, and really kind of expanding. We have to take into account, what is your product? What is your management commitment? How much, how much commitment is putting to that? How much time do you have? Do you want to focus on exporting, or is your domestic business so core to your life that you really don't want? So we'll help you develop strategies for that. With the seasoned exporter, really we help in a lot of different ways. One is, Mike brought up the issue of compliance. Let's make sure, right, that your export processes are in line with what's expected, especially from the compliance side. Let's review your financials. Let's review, are you making, are you making a profit in this? Is it worth it? Where should you focus your business? How is your channel strategy working? And just helping you with all aspects of that. Important too, especially as your company is growing, is making sure that the left hand knows what the right hand is doing. So operations, finance, management, sales, all of them are on the same page and working out of the same page.
Thank you, Alex. And I want to add to Alex's point. I'm just an electrical and computer engineer. You heard everybody else on the call, MBA this and education, all this other stuff. I'm just an engineer that creates products and sells it around the world. So SBTDC really is that business. They're my MBA. Okay. I didn't have to go to school for it. I have them that I can rely on. They have many great services and products. One of them that I use every year is what they call Profit Sense. And that looks at your liquidity, your profitability, your cash flow. I mean, it really looks at everything. For a small business, this is information you need to have. Not only just for your small business, but also if you're wanting to export. Can I spend $50,000 on a salesperson a year in Mexico because my sales in Mexico is exploding? You need to know, can you afford that? And then you have to sit there with Alex and his team and along with these other partners and say, hey, my exports are growing and they're, $1 million a year. Can I afford somebody at $50,000 a year with my current profitability and everything? And that's what SBTDC can do, is they come alongside and they say, hey, look, based upon your numbers and everything and your profit loss, your balance sheets and everything, this is where we think you can do this. We think you can do that. SBTDC has helped me tremendously. Their people really looked, when I purchased ASI in 2017 from my father, they looked at, well, you guys are spending a lot of cash. You're spending cash on equipment, and interest rates are at historic lows back then. And they're going, why aren't you borrowing any money? Why are you just spending this cash? And so, they really help with that cash to debt ratio as well. You don't want to be all cash and no debt. You also don't want to be all debt and no cash. So, SBTDC can help you with these, standard business questions. So small businesses looking for how profitable they are, can they get into these markets? What resources do they need to put behind it? It really helps to work with SBTDC on these programs like Profit Sense and other things. And even for a seasoned exporter like myself, that's been exporting since early 2000s, at ASI, it's good to work with them and just see where we're at. And then the other thing that SBTDC does that's great is we just finished, ASI did at the end of last year, a strategic plan for 2024. And SBTDC came out. We had one of their people actually moderating it. So I had all my team in the room. And like Alex said, what's the right hand and the left hand doing? Okay, I'm the president. What do I want to see? What's my growth expectations? Okay, now I have all my executives in the team from production to sales to marketing and everything else with SBTDC. Now, how do we make that happen? And then also, is it feasible based upon your finances? So again, SBTDC is a great integral partner because they do this confidential programs where they look at your finances and everything else, but they can meet with you and your team and say, you know, this is pie in the sky. This is not going to happen based upon your finances. Or yes, we agree with this. This may be a little conservative, but it really helps with companies' growth because they know where they're at and where they're going. So, you know, kudos to Alex and his team. I've worked with them for many years as well. And like I said, we just finished our own strategic planning, and I'm a seasoned exporter. Like I said, from early 2000s, I've been doing this, had an office in Hong Kong for years, ran our Asian sales out of there. So you would say, well, what does he need SBTDC for? I can tell you, I need SBTDC and I need them every year.
Thank you, Jonathan. Just a plug for a couple of other things that the international business team does that, you know, I'm constantly recommending that companies I work with take advantage of is, as Alex mentioned, his team, they are connected with universities across the state of North Carolina. That includes special relationships with certain professors that teach international business. That gives opportunities for free market research that MBA students can do on behalf of companies organized through your SBTDC international business counselors. And they do some really cool foundational market identification work with trade mapping exercises. So there's all kinds of things. The list is endless. So thank you, Alex, for the great support your team provides to our companies. Next, Greg, I know that sometimes it gets confusing for people because they hear the export, you know, resource office, they hear U.S. commercial service, they hear ITA, foreign commercial service. So as part of your introduction, if you can help kind of guide people through how to refer to you, that would be wonderful.
Well, I get called a lot of names. You cannot, nothing I haven't already heard, but yes, we're the U.S. Department of Commerce. That's our overreaching organization, part of International Trade Administration within that. And U.S. Commercial Service is our organization here on the ground. And we work here in Charlotte. We work in what's called a U.S. Export Assistance Center because we are co-located with the Small Business Administration. So we are the federal lead federal agency for export promotion. There's been some talk on this call about compliance, and glad to go down that rabbit hole if we want to, but I'll stick out of it for as long as I can. But we are the lead export promotion agency. So that means that we work here in local communities in our 3 offices, Greensboro, Raleigh, and Charlotte, with our state partners that are on this call. And locally with our economic development organizations. Really, our role is working with client referrals that you guys may have. You may be working with a company that has an export question. And once you're introduced to one of us on this call, you'll be introduced to the whole group. That's one thing that I believe has already been mentioned, is that we have I think Melissa mentioned it in her intro, we have a fantastic relationship with our federal and state export promotion partners. We have monthly calls that we are all on, minus Jonathan, where we talk about our programs and even maybe talk about clients that we may need to hand over to another partner to help with a particular program or service that our partners are offering. So you're very fortunate to have this working relationship in North Carolina at the federal and state level. So what we do here at the Export Assistance Centers in North Carolina is very similar to the EDPNC. We have offices in about 70 locations overseas. Most of our offices are in U.S. embassies and consulates. So you have somebody on the ground working for U.S. Department of Commerce in those consulates and embassies looking out for U.S. businesses. One of the things that they do that you guys are probably very familiar with is also recruiting companies to come into the U.S. So that's probably how you're familiar with the U.S. Department of Commerce's International Trade Administration, is through the Select USA program. Many of you will be up at the Gaylord in Maryland coming up, I believe it's next month. I locally am responsible for vetting companies that apply, just to have that connection with the economic development organizations that may have export companies in their local community that may need to reach out to this ecosystem that's on this call today. So I'll be glad to talk to you offline about Select USA programs if you want to. Aligned with Select USA, just to differentiate a little bit and I think we all do this on this call. One of the things that we all do is we work with our local EDOs on companies, and Mike mentioned this in his talk about we don't really care who owns the company. So it could be a German-owned company, especially here in Charlotte, a lot of German-owned companies, and they may be making stuff or assembling stuff here in this market, and they may be exporting it. They are eligible for our services and programs in that scenario. And so when a company is looking to invest in North Carolina, it's important to bring one of us in on that conversation to talk about when that company is here on the ground, what we can do to help them grow. This hemisphere is usually where they're looking to grow. Somewhere in the Western Hemisphere, they have plans to distribute to those markets. And everybody on this call can help out with that scenario. So I want to make sure you guys are familiar with that as you're recruiting companies to invest in North Carolina. But real quickly, the things that we do counseling. So I've got a staff of 4 here in North Carolina aligned with the industries that are most prevalent in the state. We do matchmaking. We do programs to help them find qualified buyers overseas. Again, this is working with their overseas offices, and they have similar or aligned with their industry portfolio as well. Energy is one example. The energy sector in Austria just has one example where we do something annually to help energy companies find buyers throughout Europe through a big program through Austria. Promotion. We are at trade shows as well. Some of you may have been to large trade shows overseas and seen that USA Pavilion. In many cases, our local staff is running that USA Pavilion to try to match US companies up with the foreign buyers. And when it comes to large companies, I know we wanted to talk about what we can do to help large companies export. I'm meeting with a large company this afternoon. Most of what we do for these large companies is advocacy work or commercial diplomacy work. 2 big terms. Advocacy would be if they're bidding on an overseas project and they may want a fair and transparent process. Who wouldn't want that? That's where the U.S. Department of Commerce and our overseas offices can come in, either through the consul or the ambassador, or maybe even somebody over here in D.C., the Secretary of Commerce, can write a letter to a very important person in that country just to remind them that we would love to see a fair and transparent process in this bidding on that overseas project. So that's how a lot of big U.S. companies use our services. Another way that the bigger companies use our services is through background checks. We offer an international company profile. So a lot of, especially the aerospace and defense companies, are working with contractors abroad. So our offices overseas can help do some backgrounds on those companies as well. Those are probably the 2 most prevalent things that big companies use with our services. We also bring in buyer delegations from overseas to visit large companies. I brought in a big delegation to a company just down the road in Midland. It's a huge company. Just a couple of months ago, it was a buyer came in from Africa, and that helped grease the wheels. And that company is actually exporting a lot of their material over to Africa as a result of that. So again, organizing through overseas offices, these buyer delegations coming into the U.S. is another thing that we do for the bigger companies. But our sweet spot for the small companies, those companies that don't have that export department, even those foreign-owned companies that are here. The Mittelstand companies from Germany, they don't have the resources to set up an export department, just like everybody else on this panel. That's our sweet spot. So we really are here for those small size companies that really need our help here locally. I'll stop there. Thanks.
Just a quick thing with U.S. Commercial Services, their programs. Before I joined the SBTC in my corporate or my working in the world, I use their services all the time, and we're talking 30 years worth of that. Yeah. The Made in USA Pavilion is fantastic. They've never been to a trade show before. Take advantage of that. Just the same with the EDP&C trade shows. Take advantage of that. They make life so much easier.
And I'll piggyback on that, Alex, real quick before we hand it over to Jonathan again, is some cool synergies. So as my boss, Mike at EDPNC mentioned, our international trade consultants cover a certain number of countries, maybe we'll say 20 to 30, and Greg's working directly with embassy support in 70 or 80 markets. So if we are unable to cover market intelligence research or partner search for a certain country, then of course the U.S. Commercial Service is going to be able to support it. Now, our services are not costing you further than the taxes you've already paid as a company. The U.S. Commercial Service has a very, very reasonable rate, extremely reasonable for what you get. But we also have synergies because our grant program at EDPNC can offset those costs. So if you work with SBTDC to get your export plan in place and a trade manager at EDPNC to choose what grant offerings you're going to use in advance, then you can get reimbursements for any fees you incur through the U.S. Commercial Service. And if you don't, they're extremely reasonable rates anyway. So that's my little plug. Over to you, Jonathan, for any U.S. Commercial Service highlights.
Well, I can tell you all on the call that I've used just about every one of U.S. Commercial Services products that they offer, from just market information and investigation to matchmaking to a program they call Gold Key, and that program is really not just market information. It's also matching you with potential distributors or buyers and B2B meetings. And actually you going in country and meeting with those people. So I've used all their products in that sense. They have a great program for our rural exporters called the RAISE program. And we have a rural export person out of West Virginia that travels to North Carolina. And she loves working with small and medium businesses in North Carolina. She's got a sweet heart for just North Carolina companies as a whole. But really, it also gives a lot of these services. So the RAISE program is basically like a Gold Key where they take you through, the market information. They do a partner search. They'll go ahead and they'll, give you an idea of what your competition's doing, what compliance issues you may have. I didn't want to say compliance. I was trying to come up with another word, but, just different things that small businesses are looking for. And so they don't just have that. In May, they have an event that they're having in Turkey called Trade Winds, which is basically like a Gold Key where small businesses can go learn about several markets in that area. So Turkey, I think Romania is a stop. There's a couple others. And then they'll do matchmaking over there as well. What you really get with Greg and his team is a local presence of people that are knowledgeable, that have a real international reach. So if you're having a problem with a product in Poland for some reason, let's say you've shipped a product to Poland and there's some kind of issues, you can reach out to Greg and Greg can have his counterpart in Poland see what the particular issue is. And Greg has gotten me out of a lot of jams. He got me out of a big jam with China many, many years ago that I'll always be indebted to him for, where they were Chinese shipping company was trying to hijack 2 of my containers. Greg and his team were able to really help us to get about $1.2 million worth of equipment away from this Chinese shipping company. So, the U.S. Department of Commerce is really there to assist you on a global level. Greg mentioned the 70 offices around the world. Those have great staffs that love to work with you. Some of them are in the same countries and places that EDPNC. And what I like to say is U.S. Department of Commerce, they have this great reach. However, they also have some limitations because our congressional leaders put limitations on them. So what I do is I use Greg's team for stuff that I can push him to the limit. And then I go in and I use EDPNC for the stuff that Greg's team can't do because they don't have the same rules and laws passed by our congressional leaders. But really, that's what the whole center is, getting SBTDC to get you ready, EDPNC being more of the North Carolina hand holder, but then Greg's team really handles, holding your hand overseas and a lot of countries that EDPNC just doesn't have the reach for. And so I've used all their products. Like I said, I've not had any complaints using Gold Keys. Greg has been instrumental in getting to what they call Discover Global Markets to North Carolina. We were the first state to ever hold that, which is basically international matchmaking, but here in North Carolina. And so we had our first one in Raleigh and our second one in Charlotte. Both were huge successes, led to the growth of that program. I believe South Carolina is going to be doing one next year, if I'm correct, Greg. Shake your head, yes. But, you know, Greg and his leadership down there in Charlotte has really shown what North Carolina companies can do. And, you know, the synergies of all these companies really have shown, whether it's at the federal level with Greg, the state level with SBTDC and EDP, what they can do for small North Carolina companies. So Greg and his team, they have a lot of products. I could share years and years of stories of Greg getting me out of jams. But he probably doesn't want to hear that because he's younger than he you know, puts on all the time. But if I shared all the years, he would say, man, you're making me sound old. But no, it's a great organization with great people behind it. And in North Carolina, what's great about it is I deal with other states in this country. We have the only state that I know of where you have these synergies between the federal and the state. We are the example of how you can do this. And that allows your small businesses and medium businesses to grow, add employees, add revenue, adding tax dollars, doing expansions, all things that you at EDA want to hear, you know, growth, 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 growth. And that's what all these organizations allow your small, medium businesses to do. So Greg and his team with their products, again, Gold Keys, international partner searches, the RAISE program, you know, trade wins, all these different Discover Global Markets, they're all different programs, bringing in international buyers, helping with trade missions internationally, getting ready to do one in North Carolina, hopefully to Canada next year. So again, just things that, you know, Greg and his team do because they have the 70 offices around the world and they have that expertise.
Thank you, Jonathan.
So,
next, we're going to transition to Kathy. So it's a little bit of a unique situation we have where not all, but the bulk of assistance for the agriculture sector, which is our largest export, our largest, was it GDP?
Industry, yeah.
Kathy,
With that.
specific stats on that. So when EDP&C transitioned from the North Carolina Department of Commerce in 2014 to establish as a public-private partnership, the international trade team took on most industries. However, because agriculture is such an important industry in the state, that stayed housed with the North Carolina Department of Agriculture. And so that is what Kathy is going to talk to you about now.
Thank you, Melissa. North Carolina Department of Agriculture International Trade Office provides similar services as EDP&C does, except we specialize in the agriculture sector. As Melissa mentioned, agriculture is the largest industry in North Carolina. Our office has close relations with that 103 billion industry. We provide motivation and support for our partner companies so they can export and reach 95% of the world population. Our office provides staffing expertise, market research, training, financial assistance, certifications, and whatever it takes to help them succeed. We organize inbound trade missions, outbound trade missions, trade shows, so that we can connect our ag companies with international buyers. As Greg mentioned that we have our sweet spot is small and medium companies, because those are the ones who really need our help. We have close relationship with commodity industries as well. So we do a lot of promotions, PR, public relation promotions for our commodities. For example, we have a long-standing relationship with the North Carolina Sweet Potato Commission. As you all know, sweet potato is our state vegetable. We hired a PR firm in Europe together, and we help the industry to grow. And nowadays, you can find North Carolina sweet potatoes in all major retail stores in Europe. We grow about 2/3 of the sweet potatoes in the US, and we export almost 50% of the sweet potatoes we grow. So we are proud to be a part of that. And you all talking about success stories. I would like to share one. And you know, North Carolina is home of barbecue sauces. We work probably with 500 barbecue sauce companies. You can imagine that almost all families have their own home recipe from generations. And it's a very competitive product sector. It's almost impossible to export because different cultures have different cuisines and different preference for tastes. However, we have an export star barbecue companies based in Raleigh, North Carolina. They grew from their home kitchen. They started from a home kitchen. And nowadays, their products can be found in over 80 countries. How did they make it? They started with all the partners on this panel, and especially North Carolina Department of Agriculture. We brought international buyers to their office. We provided inbound transmissions, free consulting, pull out market reports for them. And then they talk with international buyers at their office and sample their products. They buy, sample their products. They talk about pricing, packaging, and then we help them with shipping samples to overseas buyers. So the buyers are able to try the samples with their customers. And then when they decided about the pricing and shipping consolidating point in the US, they started to place trial order, and then we help them to promote their brands and encourage them to do low-cost outbound trade missions and trade shows in the US. There are some international trade shows for food products, food and beverage products in the US that can be covered by some international marketing funds, so that companies have the opportunities to meet with all sorts of international buyers at home. And also we provide North Carolina booths overseas for selected trade shows, so that our companies can benefit from the focus markets and benefit from our service. We work closely with the foreign agriculture trade offices. They have offices in 100 offices covering 180 countries. They are based in foreign embassies, US embassies in foreign countries. So they are our eyes, ears, and voices. So they help our companies to screen buyers and line up international buyers for our companies as well. And we are an active member of the Southern United States Trade Association, which is part of USDA. They cover 16 southern states. So they provide 50% cost share funding to help our companies to get up to 50% of the international marketing expenses reimbursed. The expenses include airfare, hotel, staff per diem, booth fees, and even sample shipment cost, bilingual website, bilingual packaging cost too, and even for some promotional item costs. So there are a lot of international marketing opportunities and financial resources available to support our small to medium ag business. And I'm here to help them. You can reach out to me, and we have 4 international marketing specialists in our office. They cover different commodity sectors, so they can specialize in those industries to help our companies better. So let me know if you have questions or any trade leads. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kathy. So we're getting close to the end of the panel. I don't see any Q&A at this point. So if you think of any questions, go ahead and place them in there. Meantime, before we hand things over to Andre, I'm going to invite Jonathan to just tout a little bit what economic development professionals can highlight about the benefits of exporting when they're engaging with their companies.
So real quick, the biggest thing for all of you with EDA is, what does exporting mean for companies? What it means, I think Alex said diversification. That's a good word. I use stability. World markets are always up and down. The US markets are up and down. Exporting provides stability. It provides growth. For your small and medium businesses, what it could mean is it could change the whole trajectory of their company. My business was started in 1993 by my father. It was all for North Carolina woodworking industry. Okay. And in the beginning, things were great, but then a lot of North Carolina woodworking industry kind of moved away, and we started having to think international because, people weren't making furniture all in North Carolina. Now a lot of it is back and booming again, which we're happy about. But, what does that mean? It means during COVID, certain markets were down, certain markets were up, certain markets were open, certain markets were closed. What does it mean to your bottom line, your value? Exporting companies are more profitable than companies that don't export. I'll give you an example. We're a small company, 40 some employees, Western North Carolina. Our employees have full paid for health benefits, meaning medical, dental, vision, completely paid for by the company, a 401k plan with a 4% match, other kind of benefits, life insurance policies, all these things, long-term disability, all these things that the employees don't pay for. Well, we couldn't do this unless we were profitable. And exporting actually makes us a lot more profitable. It allows us a lot more opportunities in market, a lot more ability to grow our revenues every year. And so that's what it means to small and medium businesses when they export. It gives them the opportunity to be more stable. It gives them the opportunity to grow. It gives them the opportunity to provide more for their employees. It also allows companies like myself to give more back to the community. So we're involved with the local high school, with the machine shop program and everything else, which all of you in EDA know, with all the machining companies out there and the lack of machinists, doesn't hurt to have companies that are involved with the local schools to get machinists. So it provides opportunities, jobs, growth, potential, just everything that you all are looking for. That's what exporting provides. And it provides that security, that stability. In 2008, 2009, when we had the Great Recession, export really helped us going, really kept us going, because the wood industry was shattered across the US because of the housing industry. So that's what exporting does. It gives you that diversification, it gives you that stability, it gives you that security, but it gives you that growth potential and that ability to do things that you may not be able to do if you're just looking inside the 50 United States.
Thank you, Jonathan. I know that Alex with SBTDC had volunteered to talk just super briefly about a couple of other resources, including something that the SBA offers, an export-import bank, but we might be pretty tight on time. So please just know that resources available to you go even beyond the representatives on this call. There are even more resources available to your companies that are looking to expand overseas. So I will turn it back over to Andre for closing comments.
Thank you, Melissa, for turning it over. And I know we didn't have enough time, but that was very informational for all of us. I know I got a lot out of it. So thank you all of the panel. That's Melissa, Mike, Kathy, Greg, Jonathan, and Alex for sharing your insights, experiences, and advice today. Our panel explored the essentials of expanding into international markets and the significant support structures North Carolina offers to help businesses do so successfully. From understanding why exporting is a pivotal growth strategy to hearing firsthand success stories from local companies, we've covered many critical topics. NCEDA's partnership with EDP&C continues to help us provide resources and education to our membership that benefit overall economic growth for the state and pave the way for businesses to innovate and thrive globally. Thank you all for attending. We hope you leave here with the insights and inspiration needed to take your business to the next level. I'd again like to thank our annual sponsors. We could not do this without you. Save the date for our next webinar on May 16th. That will feature the EDP&C Real Estate Report. Registration for it will open next week. We also have several in-person networking opportunities coming up across the state. Our NCEDA Legislative Breakfast on May 8th in Raleigh, the Triad Area Luncheon on May 22nd, and also our 2024 Annual Conference in Wilmington from June 25th to 27th. Registration is open for all of these in-person events. You can find more information in the e-newsletter or on the website. Thanks again for being with us. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.